Hello and welcome to the Market Musings podcast, where today we welcome Bernard Aylward, the CEO of Kodal Minerals, a company developing lithium projects and exploring for gold. Hi, Bernard, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Mark. Thanks very much for having me.
No problem. And how are you doing?
I'm actually doing really well. I'm here in Perth at the moment. We're having a lovely day today, and things have been going very well with Kodal recently. So I find myself in a very good space.
That's good. That's good. Well, I've recently moved to The Hague in the Netherlands only a few days ago. This is my first Market Musings podcast from the new location, and I'm also having a nice day. It's nice blue skies and looks like it's going to be quite warm. But we usually do a weather report, and Kenny's usually got something to say. So how are you, Kenny, and what's it like up in Scotland?
Yeah, hi Mark, hi Bernard. Yeah, it's pretty miserable in Scotland. Just a bit standard. So it is. We just accept it's the norm. But no, it's great to have you on, Bernard. And you say you're phoning from Perth?
Yep, Perth, Australia, not Perth, Scotland. And
not Perth, Scotland. Yeah, Perth, Scotland's lovely as well. I'm sure Perth, Australia is as well. What's the lockdown situation like there now? Because I've seen quite a bit of media about what's going on in Melbourne and the lockdown.
Well, I guess, like we all see the news in Melbourne, and that's a pretty tough situation for them. I hope they've got it under control. But really, in Perth, it's we're almost living in in another planet. We're pretty much back to normal. We've had a very low infection rate. People are out and about. People back at work, shops, sporting events, everything like that. Sadly, Perth has a bit of a reputation as a quiet town. And it even has a joke at the moment that Perth is so boring, even the coronavirus left. But, I think it's actually a lovely place to live, but it is quiet.
Yeah, well, my sister-in-law's out there and she's pretty loud, so it can't be that quiet. But okay, so moving on. Obviously, when we get directors and geologists and CEOs on our podcast, Bernard, we like to sort of dig deep into their background, what they've done. You can go back as far as you want. You can talk about your childhood, where you were born, what your school was like, what your sort of senior education, and then how you became a geologist. And every geologist we've had on so far has always gave us a bizarre story of how they became a geologist. So I'm hoping you're going to be the same.
Break the mold. I might break the mold. Yeah. Well, I guess, look, I do have a bit of a contact with Melbourne. That's where I was born, and a lot of my family are still there. So, it's a concerning situation, and I know people there. But when I was young, it was a great place to live, and we had a pretty good life, varied in the city, but often out into the country. My schooling was pretty standard, good schools, Catholic, Jesuit educated, and ended up at University of Melbourne. And when I went to start university, I actually wanted to be an industrial chemist, and chemistry was my main interest. And got into geology really as a subject that I picked up to make up some points, and actually started to find it probably the most interesting subject. We have that great mix of being outdoors and indoors, of being very scientific, quite chemical, quite physical, and a great mix for me actually of indoor and outdoor. And I look back now and wonder what I was really thinking about a chemistry career where the bulk of my time would be inside in a lab and restricted. And I look at geology and think I've had a great career, really, where I've been able to see a lot of the world. I've moved from Melbourne to Western Australia initially to be involved with diamond exploration, working for De Beers, and a great start, a great job. And then, of course, WA is famous for iron ore and gold. Yep. And I've had a bit of experience in both of those, leading up to being a exploration manager for a gold mining company here in Western Australia, responsible for the ore resources and reserves for a few underground mines and resource definition, resource development, and early stage exploration. So quite a broad career, quite widespread. And probably the last 13 or 14 years, I've really been more involved in Africa and Europe. And again, having that great luxury really of a career and a job that allows you to move, because, I often do say to people, wherever I go in the world, rocks are rocks.
Yeah.
You need a geologist and an interest and an expertise in trying to interpret those rocks. And I've been able to have employment from Siberia through Greece, bit of time in South America, and as I said, mainly focused in Africa for the last 13 or 14 years. And I've found that to be a really great job for me.
Yeah, I mean, you must have ticked off quite a lot of countries. I mean, you've ticked off a lot of continents here alone. So when you left university, Bernard, what was it, your first position? Was it De Beers, or was there a more kind of junior?
De Beers. No, it was De Beers. Yeah. And it was exploration geologist, and we were camping out in the outback for about 6 weeks at a time, and pretty standard work for a junior geologist. Lots of stream sampling, geochemical sampling, and pretty intensive field work.
Yeah, because we were actually speaking to what was his name, Mark, the potash guy, a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, Graham.
Yeah, of Emerson.
Emerson,
yeah. And he actually came straight out of university, and the first job he had to do was it was like overspill from a conveyor belt, and he had to shovel it back on the conveyor belt about 400 meters underground. And that was his first job.
Yeah.
But he said it was great because he got the respect of all the guys at the coalface, for want of a better term, and he slowly worked his way up in that company, all the way to the managing director for the UK. So
yeah,
no, I think it's good that guys that come out of university, they don't go to the glory. They start at the bottom and work your way up.
No, I think it's important that you actually get involved with all aspects of your job, from being the guy who has to organise the food for the other guys, being able to run a camp, being able to plan a basic soil sampling program. They're all learning experiences. And, strangely enough, at university, you don't actually get that. You don't actually get that side of the experience of geology. You get the academic, and you get the sort of nice intellectual approach. But, when you send a graduate out to sit on a RAB rig north of Kalgoorlie, it's really a different world from a university, and someone takes a while to learn.
Is there any particular aspect of it that you sort of interests you more?
No, I think that we've got, I see a great range of projects, and I see great range of commodities to explore for. And, I think sadly for my wife and sadly for my kids, geology is actually my hobby as well as my job, and they find it a bit disheartening when some of our holidays are planned around things that I want to see in the bush.
Yeah. It's good though that you've got a job that is your hobby as well. That's like, the best kind of career, really.
Yeah, that's right. As they say, it's not really working.
Yeah. No, but it's good, as I said, you start at the bottom because you learn a lot about people. So you do. I think in any job, you want to understand people, how they work, what motivates them, what drives them, and I think you get a lot of respect if you come in at the bottom rung and you work your way up rather than just getting sort of elevated to halfway up the ladder. I don't think that works, and certainly in the environment. I mean, I've worked in high volume manufacturing most of my life, and a lot of the engineers that come out of university were elevated to a level that they had no common sense for how things actually ran in the shop floor or the production line. And although they were intelligent, they couldn't run a trip to the toilet, for want of a better term, came to try to run a production line. So No, definitely, you've got to start at the bottom. That's my theory in life anyway. But okay, so we'll move on. You said you've spent a lot of time in West Africa, Bernard. So when did you start getting involved there? Was it about 17 years ago, you said?
Yeah, I started off with actually doing some work in Ghana and with a company called Azuma Resources. And we had a project in the north of Ghana in north upper west and not far from the sort of town of Wa. And again, really an interesting project and gold project. Probably when I started, it was, between 400,000 to 500,000 ounces. When I left, we were more likely 1.5 million to 2 million ounces of gold. Good time, good, great to be involved with the discoveries. Great to get involved with a country like Ghana where, and this is something I would say I see all over West Africa, where you've got a very pro-mining, a very keen country to see development and recognise that there is potential for improvement and a great place to work. And actually, what I did find, which was a way to ease myself into West Africa, really, was that a lot of what I see in the Birimian sequence of West Africa is similar, not exactly the same, of course, and there's some important differences, but is similar to what we see in Western Australia in our eastern goldfields here.
Mm-hmm.
And those exploration techniques and that knowledge that we've built up over here is applicable to West Africa. And I think that's part of why Australian companies and Australian geologists have been able to have success in West Africa.
Right, okay. And how long did you stay with the first company, Bernard? The name
so
escapes me.
with Azuma, I started off as their general manager, really in charge of exploration and really with the goal of expanding the resource. I stayed there for about 3.5 to 4 years. And when I left there, I took a job based back here in Perth with a company called International Goldfields. And we had a project out in the east of Western Australia, actually in the Fraser Range, quite early, but we were looking for gold then. And with International Goldfields, we then started to acquire additional projects. And one of the things we put together was a series of exploration projects in Mali and Cote d'Ivoire. And we got involved in projects in Brazil. Some really good projects there around the Mato Grosso region. And we're looking at some projects in North America as well. So quite a diverse company, quite a good place to operate within that company environment because you've got a very positive sentiment towards acquiring projects, to exploring projects, looking at them with the aim of trying to enhance their value quickly and then make assessments on their value to the company, whether retained within our structure or vending out to other parties. So, a bit more of that learning experience. And I think, as you said, Kenneth, when you start off at the bottom, your learning curve is huge. Often, sadly, you learn by mistakes. But, as you go along, your knowledge increases. But I find myself in positions where every job, I find there's a lot that I'm learning. And with International Goldfields, part of the learning curve there was that project assessment, acquisition, and, building up a team and working to that success.
Right. And from there, you moved on to, obviously, the Kodal Minerals is coming up soon, but was there any other jobs in between?
Well, yeah, when I left International Goldfields, it was actually to be the founding director of a company that then listed on the ASX. And I was the founding director of a company called Taruga Gold. And we started off with, again, West African focus, because I was finding more and more that that was where my interest was, and where I still thought at the time and still maintain that that's a place where I feel that there's a lot more discoveries to be made. There's plenty of the Birimian sequence that I consider underexplored. There's plenty of the Birimian sequence that keeps on unearthing new zones of gold mineralization. And I have this feeling about West Africa that there's a lot more discovery. So when we were starting Taruga Gold, we put together, again, a series of projects where we were in Niger, which is, I'm sure you and your listeners know, can be quite a difficult country to work in, but I think we were successful there for quite a while. Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. And again, we probably, one thing I have learnt over the time of my career is that, and this is a truism, that mining is a boom and bust industry. And early on with Azuma, we were in a bit of a downtime, but when I was there, we were coming into a real boom and a real focus on West Africa. With international Goldfields, it was really a great time for mining companies around that period from 2008 to about 2012. And then the listing of Taruga was February 2012. And for quite a long time, that was the only IPO that was successful on the ASX for the 2012 year. It was really a difficult time for the mining industry. We were pretty much in the decline. But Taruga, we were successful in being able to raise funds. We had projects where we were actively drilling. To find a resource in Niger, probably too small for the country and too small for us to really take that risk to develop. Cote d'Ivoire, we maintained and acquired additional projects in Mali and Cote d'Ivoire. And that was then the stepping stone for me to move to Kodal Minerals, because Kodal was a company looking for new assets, and Taruga was looking to vend out its West African gold assets. And that was the process. The assets were purchased by Kodal Minerals, and I became the CEO of Kodal Minerals.
Where do you think we are now in the cycle, Bernard?
Mark, it's a difficult question, really. I'm seeing here in Australia that there's companies raising a lot of money for developed and producing companies. I'm seeing that money flowing through into exploration. There's a lot of high valuations of companies. And I think that reflects that the gold price is at record highs, that iron ore is at, over $120 a tonne, which is a very strong price. Copper seems to be picking up. So, my view is we're probably on the up, and I think there's still a fair way to go on the up. We've probably got, I hope to see a good three more years of very strong interest in mining.
Okay.
I hope, one day I hope that the situation changes and we move away from boom and bust. But, at the moment we've come out of a long bust, and, these things can change quite quickly. But I think at the moment we're in a very strong and rising market.
And how long, in your opinion, are the cycles, or is it different every time?
Look, it does vary from cycle to cycle. Some of the busts cannot be so bad, and some of the booms cannot be so high. They probably, you might see 3 to 4 years of really strong interest, followed by 4 to 5 years of, bust. And that's, it's hard to put a real finger on it, because, sometimes, obviously, mining and particularly commodities like copper and nickel and iron ore reflect what's happening in the broader economy in terms of construction and infrastructure and development. And, the Chinese massive development in, the late 2000s, 2010 and so on was a key driver for a lot of that boom.
Yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it? It's hard to say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to sort of Kodal now. We're almost up to date. Can you give us just obviously we know it's lithium in Mali, gold in Mali, and gold in Ivory Coast, but could you perhaps expand on some of these projects and just give us a brief overview?
Sure. That's us in a real snapshot, that we're West African focused. Gold, Mali and Cote d'Ivoire in the Birimian Belt, and lithium in Mali. And in detail, our lithium project is in Bougouni. That's 180 kilometres south of the capital, Bamako. It's our flagship project. We acquired this in late 2016 and have been able to attract significant investment. We have a major shareholder who sits around about 22 to 24% at the moment. They're associated with one of the Chinese lithium carbonate manufacturers. So they're really in the lithium business. They were very positive from day one about our project. They've been very supportive. What we have is what's referred to as pegmatite. So that's a type of intrusive rock, really associated with the last stages generally of granite intrusions. And by the time you get to the last stage, you really end up with the oddball minerals and elements that don't fit anywhere else. And so pegmatites are really strange beasts of rocks. And with that odd chemical makeup, we do start to see the formation of spodumene, a lithium-bearing mineral. And our region, our Bougouni region, has quite a lot of pegmatite intrusions, quite large and quite extensive strike length. They have coarse spodumene mineralisation, and we're seeing quite high-grade mineralisation. The rocks are sticking out of the ground, so from an exploration point of view, we've got some really easy targets. Sometimes I think you don't need a geologist for some of those, but actually when they start going undercover and varying in nature, that's where I come into play. But we've got an excellent project there. We started off with about 500 square kilometres. Through our exploration, we've been able to focus down to about 350 square kilometres. We've got a resource of 21 million tonnes of lithium oxide at around about a grade bit over 1.2% lithium oxide. And we are able to demonstrate that this can be the basis of a economic mining development. I think that's a fantastic result, given that really we started exploration in 2017. So talking to you 3 years later about moving from nothing to being able to say we've applied for a mining license that we expect to be granted shortly, that we have a major shareholder, we have an offtake agreement that will look to purchase between 80 and 100% of our product. And recently, and why at the start I was saying things have been positive for Kodal lately, is that we signed an MOU with a major infrastructure and construction and engineering company, Chinese backed, called Sino Hydro. And the real bonus of this MOU that we have with them, and we've worked quite hard to develop a relationship with this company, is that they'll give us feedback on our feasibility. We'll be working on the development plan, and importantly, they will be assisting us with looking at financing for our development. So, we've got a long way to go, but there's really a big tick for us that we're getting such strong interest in our project right from the start.
Yeah.
With the investment from Rishin, to now with the interest from the infrastructure and development companies.
Yeah. And the area is quite hot for lithium in general because I'm trying to remember the name. There's an ASX listed company that's got quite a
Mali
large
Lithium.
resource next to you as well.
Yeah, that's Mali Lithium, and they have the Goulamina deposit to the west of us.
Yeah.
It is, and interestingly, part of the reason, again, a lot of what we do builds on the work of others, and the Mali government in around about 2007, I think, had undertaken a study that was sponsored by the World Bank to review the lithium potential of the Buguni Sikasso region and the west of Mali as well, around the Kai region. And that report actually identified quite a few of the prospects that we're working on now. And we were able to build on that. That work was done by consulting group CSA Global. We had confidence in that. We were able to acquire ground that we knew contained some of these mineralized pegmatites, and then we've been able to undertake the exploration and the resource definition work to actually start to add some facts to those stories.
Yeah, and so obviously the next stage, Bernard, is the mining license approval, and then what's the kind of path to potential production? Have you got any timescales? I know it's a hard one to pin down.
Yeah, I guess as usual, that's a piece of string sort of question. But our planning has us with about an 18-month engineering, finalisation, and construction timetable. Of course, that's a lot predicated on financing, a lot predicated on the financial market, and just ensuring that we have the confidence, or that the company has the confidence to go ahead. And my view is that right now we're demonstrating a project with a high RRR, a short payback period, that it is a commodity that if we do have that 18-month construction, we are coming out into producing into a time when there's an expected deficit of the supply of lithium and spodumene concentrate. So some of those things are lining up quite well for us. And I'm very positive about it, but there's still a few things that we need to tick off, but that's our planning sort of time frame.
All right, excellent. And so obviously the lithium isn't your only project. You've got obviously gold in the mix as well, split over 2 countries. Can you just over that as well? Because obviously there's a mix of 100% owned and there's some joint venture stuff in there as well. Yeah.
Look, I guess if you talk to people about West Africa, the first thing they think of is gold, and they think of the Birimian sequence that extends from Ghana through to Senegal, and famous for, large gold mines, massive gold mines, and a long history of gold mining development. We have projects in Mali, in southern Mali, and we have projects in Cote d'Ivoire. And we actually have an active joint venture with Resolute Mining, who are an Australian-based mining company. They operate the Syama gold mine in Mali. And one of our projects is actually adjacent to that operation, but the joint venture with Resolute is on 3 of our Cote d'Ivoire projects. And they've been very active, and I think they've made a discovery in the north on the Niele prospect. We're waiting for them to be able to undertake some more work. I've had recent discussions with them about their plans, and it actually looks quite exciting. There's been some early stage air core and RC drill results. There's demonstrated continuity of mineralisation, but there's a lot more work to extend that and define that fully. I think it looks very encouraging. We also have, in our own right, in Cote d'Ivoire, to start with, is one of our projects that I really like is the Dabakala project. It's located in the centre of Cote d'Ivoire, north of Bouake. It's early stage, but we actually have been doing some surface geochemistry on our own, and in the times when money was tight, work was done on a very tight budget, and sampling was on a very wide space sampling. We defined a gold anomaly, and I was really pleased with that because it seemed coherent over the wide space sampling. We've done some infill and it still hangs together. We plan to do some more infill sampling, and then that target will be ready for some first pass drilling. And that's quite exciting because that's a virgin discovery potentially in a new area. The geology looks really interesting. We can see alteration and a lot of structural deformation. So for me, they're real positives for possible gold mineralization being developed to a suitable economic size. And it looks really encouraging. So, again, as I said at the start, I like West Africa because you have this feel that there's discoveries to be made. And we're actually talking about a project that's never had a drill hole and hardly ever had any geologists cross the ground. So it's really an interesting area for us. Secondly, we have the Korogo project to the north, and that, again, early stage geochemistry, early stage positive anomalism, probably getting ready for some air core drilling in that project, but I always look at Dabakala and Korogo together, and we'd like to do the work at Dabakala first. And then finally, we have applications pending, and you've probably heard other companies talk about the Bundiali region of Cote d'Ivoire in the north, where the Tongon gold mine, the Sisingwe gold mine. Across the border in Burkina Faso, you have the Banfora gold deposit that's been currently mined by Teranga, a Canadian company, and a lot of exploration happening in that area that's turning up new zones of gold mineralization frequently. And we have a project up there that we're hoping to get granted, and a very positive area. So Cote d'Ivoire, I think, is the country that is underexplored. It has had, unfortunately, missed out on a lot of the exploration in that period from 2000 through to 2010 or 11. It was actually sadly undergoing a bit of a civil war and political turmoil, and it really missed out on a lot of activity. But it's the last 5 to 10 years, it's been very active.
Yeah, and with the joint venture, you've pretty much got a free carry all the way through to feasibility.
Well, actually, we free carried through to feasibility, and the joint venture is structured in such a way, Kenneth, that Resolute have to spend $3 million to earn 75%. If they don't spend that, then they have nothing. But if they spend that, then we're actually free carried through to the decision to mine, and that's to feasibility or completion of feasibility. Yeah, so it's a lot more money to be spent, and we sit there at our 25%. So a worst case scenario for us is that Resolute finds something significant, drill it out, and come to the decision to mine, and we're 25% holder of it. I think that's a bit of a win.
Yeah, it's definitely a good position to be in. And just jumping back to the Mali projects, I think it's at Nangalasso.
Yep, Nangalasso. So Nangalasso is in the southeast of the country. As I said, it's adjacent to the Syama gold mine. Slightly different geology, and I actually say that our geology is far more consistent with what you see at Sisingwe, so far more consistent with that Bundiali zone in Cote d'Ivoire. High grade surface anomalism. We've had some good early drilling results. It does require more drilling to start to understand this project, but very good area, very good anomalism to start with, and geology again looks right. And I've been I've put together some images in the past for our shareholders and presentations where I just start to highlight the regional. So, and when I mean regional, I'm looking, in Cote d'Ivoire, so northern Cote d'Ivoire, southern Mali, highlight the Syama mines, the Singwe mine, and so on. But I highlight the regional geochemical surface anomalies. And the Nangoloso one has really quite a regionally significant anomaly. And we need to do a lot more work to test that. So a good prospect. And, I guess one thing I would say about our gold assets is while we were really pleased and are still very pleased with our Bougouni project, it being the flagship, it of course attracts all the exploration dollars. And at the time, operating with a limited budget, we weren't able to do much work on our gold assets. We've been able to maintain our licenses, maintain our tenure. We've got good relations with the government. And now we find ourselves, fortunately, with these good projects to continue to explore while our Bougouni project is being advanced through these engineering studies and more advanced review of infrastructure and development.
Yeah. So there's not as much exploration in the lithium project. That's basically, I think, what you're saying. Yeah, a lot of
not for the moment. And we've got a very good exploration team, and I like to utilise our guys. And we'll be down in Cote d'Ivoire as soon as we can. We'll be looking at the Nangoloso project. Our guys will be out there again to, there's a few geological mapping, a few more surface sampling, a bit more confirmation of our drill targets prior to us getting into drilling.
Yeah, I take it as like most African countries, COVID is just easing off, so the guys can get boots back in the ground soon.
Yeah, well, it's a rainy season, so that's the biggest hold up because the rainy season it's very, very difficult to move around, and particularly some of our areas close to significant rivers. But we expect that normally ends towards the end of September. October, they should be able to move around. And I guess, look, it's not, it would be remiss not to mention at the moment the Mali political situation and the fact that their government, their military had a coup. The president has been, well, I'd say resigned, but under duress is what I would suggest. And the country now is looking to appoint a new civilian government and call for elections. What that's meant is that the borders to Mali are closed and travel is restricted, that the population is really waiting to see what the next phase is. The feedback I'm getting from our guys is that the mood in the country is positive, that the expectation is the military are making all the right noises and there's hope that they follow through, and that a coup that has had no bloodshed, that has been reasonably supported by the population, and if it can lead to a new civilian government quickly, we'd all be pleased with that. But at the moment, that sort of has some impact on our ability and on our team's ability to move around.
Yeah, all right, good stuff.
Okay,
right. Just probably to finish off, Mark, I think I'll pass over to you and let you explain the sort of 60-second pitch for Bernard.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bernard, if you're up for it, what we like to do is when we get directors on is ask them to do a 60-second director pitch of the company. So in your case, Kodal Minerals, and why you think it's a potentially good investment for people to consider. So if you're up for that, then we can do that.
Yep, sure.
Okay.
I'm always happy to talk about Kodal.
Great. So what I'll do is I'll count you down from like 3, 2, 1, and then when we get to maybe 50 seconds, I'll see how you sound where you are, and I might give you a bit of a warning that you're running out of time. But if you're ready, then in 3, 2, 1, off you go.
Okay, so Kodal Minerals, as we've discussed earlier, is a West African-focused lithium and gold explorer. We have the advanced Bougouni project in Mali, where we are moving towards a mining license and looking to develop the project. We've been able to demonstrate a really high-quality project that's attracting interest from investors, from supporters from China with associations with the carbonate manufacturers, and an offtake agreement in place. We now are able to also highlight the interest from a major infrastructure and construction firm. And so for a junior, I think we really stand out from the crowd in that the support we have, the project we have, and the potential for us to move to development is really strong. Lithium is a market that I think will continue to grow, and we're seeing a lot of government support for future development of electric vehicles, particularly focused in Europe at the moment on the development of carbonate and hydroxide manufacturers. So a new market potentially opening up for us, but strong interest in the development of electric vehicles, lithium-ion batteries that augurs well for this product in the future. And secondly, a second string to our bow is the quality of our gold assets, our location in West Africa, in Mali and Cote d'Ivoire, excellent early stage gold exploration assets. We've got a very strong team with a proven track record of discovery. We have extensive experience in West Africa. We have well supported and well funded at the moment to undertake our exploration programs, and we anticipate being able to continue a steady news flow and a strong positive results for our shareholders.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Yep, that was great. That was a great summary, Bernard.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Yep. All right,
I had one just quick question. You mentioned this beryllium sequence a couple of times. I wonder if you could explain sort of what that is, what that deposit is.
So the beryllium sequence actually refers to a series of rocks and rock units that relate to, I don't want to get too geologically technical here, but relate to the formation of part of the West African continent as we know it now.
Okay.
Their age is about they're Proterozoic, so about 1.9 billion years old, I think, maybe a little bit older.
Wow, okay.
And the sequence varies from granitic intrusions to a series of sediments. So as we know it today, like seafloor sediments, a series of mafic volcanics, and a whole range of rocks. So sometimes you hear people refer to greenstone belts here in Western Australia.
Yes. Yeah.
And really they're just a series of old rocks that reflect an old environment that might have been seafloor and volcanic intrusions, but we're talking billions and billions of years ago. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's just being able to identify that consistent sequence of rocks. And, if you want to get more technical, then it starts to talk about a volcano-sedimentary basin of varying depth and varying thickness of material coming into the basin.
Okay. Well, maybe we leave the technicals for now. We occasionally have on a young geo called Charlie. He works for a broker in London. And we get him on maybe, was it once a month or so, Kenny? And he comes on and talks about a company and sort of explains the geology in sort of layman's terms. But yeah, so we can maybe ask him to get onto that. But you obviously feel there's still a lot to be discovered in that area.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely I do. And look, in real layman's terms, what we're looking for is structures that control the fluid movement, and then we're looking for places where those fluids are trapped and we can start seeing formation of mineralization. And it doesn't matter for me whether it's in the Birimian or in the greenstone belts or in younger rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, that's the whole process. You need structural control, and you need a reason for the mineralization to drop out of the fluids.
Okay, great. Well, I think that covers everything, doesn't it, Kenny? Thank you very much, Bernard, for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Kenneth, for having me today. It's been a bit of fun.
Yeah, great stuff. All right. Well, thanks for your time, and enjoy the rest of the day in Perth. It must be, I don't know, 6 o'clock or something in Perth.
5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, it's beer o'clock then. So it's
very close to.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff. Right. Have a good day, Bernard.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
Cheers.
Bernard.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to another podcast from Market Musings with Fairbairn and Russell.